Hello once again, everyone. I'm back. Time for another rant video. Let's talk Nintendo again, of course. So, Chris Pranger, don't know how to pronounce it, apologies to him. The Nintendo Treehouse Localizer, or one of them, has been fired. Now, you wouldn't know who he was from his Twitter picture there, but he says, as some of you may have heard, yes, I was fired yesterday. Yes, it was ultimately my own fault. No, I did not see this coming. Now, you're thinking, why am I doing a rant about this? What makes this rant worthy? What makes this interesting or special? Well, pretty simple. He got fired, if you do the research and look into this, basically for the most part defending Nintendo. Now, and I know what you're thinking, you're like, wait, what? He defended Nintendo and he was fired. Now, this guy has been known to be a little on the outspoken side, not quite to the length of Kamiya, who told Smash Bros. Fans to fuck off and stuff like that. But, he hasn't said anything really trash talking or anything, but he has a few times kind of exposed Nintendo as being a bit out of touch, which we all know, people with brains know, but I guess Nintendo didn't like it. And the weird thing was, he had said just a little while ago, this Chris Pranger guy, that Nintendo had a more open policy for its employees to, speak what's on their mind. And then, lo and behold, he gets fired. So I feel like it's more of a trap. Because an interesting point to bring up, Iwata. We know he refused to fire people. 100% refused. Unless he was like, some crazy guy trying to, like, sell secrets or kill someone or something. Then they'd get fired. But, for stuff like this, Iwata would not have you fired. He would defend you. He'd be like, we're not firing you. So I would bet $100 that Nintendo of America, because that's, this is in the States here, in the Nintendo of America's headquarters he worked at. I would bet $100 that I don't know if it was Reggie or just someone else wanted him fired for a while now, but they couldn't because Iwata was probably saying, "Nope, I don't fire people." Now, we're not even a month yet since Iwata passed, and people are already being fired. Well, one person so far. I'm a little surprised Miyamoto didn't step in here since he's in charge, and I know for a fact he doesn't like firing people either. Like he's a nice guy. He doesn't like doing any unpleasant stuff like that. And not to mention, Miyamoto said that frickin' Iwata's ideals would be followed. They would still continue his ideals. Well, apparently, firing people, no offense, Miyamoto, that's not one of Iwata's ideals. That was one of his best qualities, not wanting to fire people. So I feel like this whole thing about, oh, and supposedly Nintendo has a more open thing, freedom to speak thing, which is, freedom of speech, man, that's a fucking powerful thing in the States, but, it used to be, because now in the States, if you say what you want, as freedom of speech, people will get mad, and then it's like, well, people like freedom of speech until it's actually fucking used. But anyway, I feel like this was a trap from Nintendo with Iwata gone to be like, let's see who our real loyal fans are. So we're going to say anyone can say whatever they want, but then if anyone says something that they don't like, oh, guess what? You're fired. So, yeah, it sucks for this guy, uh, but there's some more to the story we can kind of cover here. Um, if it wants to load here, there we go. This was on Twitter. People in the comments were like, "So sorry to hear that, man. Loved your work on Hyrule Warriors." Well, let's ignore the Hyrule Warriors part. Oh man, crap. Really sorry to hear this. Blah blah blah. And apparently, this guy was actually doing the voice of the first boss in Star Fox Zero. So that was kind of interesting, I thought. Um, Wishing you good luck for all your future endeavors, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say before when I said people haven't been fired yet, but there was one guy that actually was fired not a whole long time ago, but a fair while ago, was like a year ago or something, which was Dan Adelman, the guy who was in charge of Nintendo's indie communications. That was a big issue back then, still, but... So here's another guy, though, and if you don't know, he's a localizer. He's one of the company's guys who translates games like from Japanese to European, or I should say like Russian or Spanish or French or English, all that stuff. Now, before we get into or continue this though, I wanted to show that basic, or not show, but say that I feel like this is not going to be beneficial to Nintendo at all. We already know how their localization is. It's slow, it's, hit or miss whether you even get a game that you want that's Japanese only. Like, look at Devil's Third. We are getting it, but it's like, oh yeah, we get it way later on. Look at Xenoblade Chronicles. We get it way later on. So forth, so on. Now, their localizing team is not huge by any stretch of the means. It's big enough, but if you take out one of the guys who's been there for years, who really understands it, who can literally, bang, 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 get things done quick, that's not going to help you in any way. That's in fact going to hinder you and hurt you, and I wouldn't be surprised if it affects in the future, the near future, or decent near future, more localizing games, being like, oh well, we don't have enough people now because we fired a guy, so we can't do it fast, or we aren't going to do it at all. Blah blah blah. But I also wanted to say this here, which was a message from him, the guy who was fired, and this is a bit of a long thing. I guess this was on his Facebook post or Facebook page. And it's a bit depressing. He says, "Hello, friends and family. As many of you have probably seen, I am no longer at Nintendo. I was terminated this week due to a podcast appearance I made last Monday." And I've read people watching this, and they're just like, "Oh, I actually really liked it." But it was a stupid judgment call on my part, and ultimately it cost me far more than I could have imagined. I've lost the only job that I really knew or ever intended to know. Since leaving high school, I've had a singular goal in terms of a career. It got me through college and pushed me through the difficult time immediately after college where I learned just how crippling it was to have an English degree in the job market. I applied for 6 years straight for my job. Even before that, I'd made my entire identity around my hope to one day have this perfect job. I was mocked here and there as a Nintendo boy from maybe middle school onward, but I thought that if I succeeded, it'd be all worth it. And now it's gone. I honestly don't know how to handle myself. A central part of my personality revolves around Nintendo. Anything that I've decorated around my house has a very clear Nintendo theme. My shirts and jackets overwhelmingly show that as well. Being able to finally feel at home at a job is a feeling I can't easily quantify. I was the guy who'd seen a hastily discarded paper towel in the men's room and picked it up, saying to myself, "This is my home and I will keep it clean." Now he says, if we're being honest, I'm scared, very scared. I haven't been without a job for over 4 years, and even then, it was during the weird, just exiting college part of my life that everyone goes through. Well, maybe not me because I didn't do college, and back then I was still down in Oregon near family. Living in Washington has struggled to feel normal, but I was grounded in my job. It was where I happily spent my time and saw all my friends. With that unstuck, Washington suddenly feels alien and empty all over again. I look around my house and see images of my son and feel such intense shame and crippling sadness. How do I share this part of my life with him? How do I cope knowing that I've failed him? Even before this, I'd been struggling to want to provide better for him and my wife, knowing that due to my student loans, I wouldn't be entirely debt-free until I turned 40. That's not a hyperbole either. I'm just now barely under $100,000 in student debt, and my last payment is scheduled for the same year that I turn 40. That student debt is intimidating, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Or wait, what? It's worth it for the end result. I've undone my end result. I spent the last week in a miserable place once the podcast began. Getting coverage, I was instantly scared when a coworker poked me and said, "Hey, you're on Go Nintendo," which is a website. Suddenly, article after article began appearing in game sites of all languages. Comments sections painted me as an idiot, and the like. My Twitter started giving me hourly reminders from people meaning well and otherwise. It seemed unthinkable that I'd be let go for a single moment of poor judgment and my own misunderstandings, but here we are. Obviously, as I'm writing this at 4 a.m., I don't think I have I don't have a clear goal. All I can think of is that there's so much I've put at risk. I know that if I can't find a job at least as good as this one, I won't be able to provide for my family. I've lost them their health coverage and their security. I also know that I've probably lost a good deal of my friends, just because I know how hard it can be to stay in touch with someone when the convenience of proximity is lost. I'm so sorry to everyone. I failed you. You believed in me and supported me and trusted me. I failed you. I failed me. So that's pretty fucking depressing and sad. Not gonna lie. And you can tell that he put like literally how he feels in his heart. Like you can feel his emotions through this. One thing though that comes to mind is, doesn't your wife work? So therefore you should be able to, you know, have some money. You'll be fine. You'll live. But just the whole thing, like he's basically, his whole life he's been Nintendo, 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 and then to get your dream job at Nintendo, which at one point is what I wanted to do, and then, finally achieve it, last there for a few years, literally be at E3, even though it was, kind of a poor E3, but you got to be there just this last Treehouse, play stuff like Fatal Frame 5, play Star Fox Zero and stuff, and literally, we're not even 2 months, or we're about 2 months after E3, after all this time, being a huge Nintendo fan above all else, and then you get fired for speaking your mind on what you thought you were allowed to do. Now, I know this seems more of a discussion than a rant because I'm not yelling, but frankly, it's probably because I'm too fucking tired to yell too much. But Nintendo, this just proves that while Iwata made stupid decisions, he was the glue that held Nintendo together. And I personally feel like Nintendo is unstable right now. They are swaying all over the place. It's like, there's a tornado going around. Is the whole Nintendo barn going to get ripped off the ground and thrown somewhere? And if it does, will it crash and splinter into pieces? Or will it land in one piece, with only minor damage? Who knows? And I really feel like if the next president, the one they get put in charge, if he does not recertify, is that the word I want to know? Reinforce, that's the word. Iwata's ideal of refusing to fire people. I'm not saying he has to copy Iwata in every sense. He or she, I should say. But if this individual doesn't at least enforce that part where he or she will be like, I don't want to fire you, where you can, get people relaxed and not worry about their fucking jobs, then I think Nintendo's quality is going to be changed, There will be noticeable differences in Nintendo across the board. So, I don't know. What else is there to say? Although I feel like there was something else I was going to fucking say and now I forgot what it was. Let me think if I can try and remember what it was here for a second here. I was talking about Iwata, I was talking about new president. Fuck. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Well, if I can't remember it, I can't talk about it. And if I can't talk about it, then there's no point in dragging this video on. So, I guess I'll wrap this up just by saying, like, Nintendo, you really, really need to fix your shit. You really need to get your feet underneath you firmly, and, I don't know. I really, really don't know what the future has in store for Nintendo. So I feel bad for the dude, of course, and I think he was wrongfully dismissed. I honestly, for me personally, I don't believe that you should fire someone for speaking their fucking mind. Unless they're blatantly, trashing it. Like, oh, if he was saying, oh, Nintendo fucking sucks, then yeah, sure, I can understand that. But if you are being genuine to the fans, if you are literally being like, yeah, Nintendo isn't exactly always the most up to date and all that stuff, why do you fucking fire someone for that? You just shouldn't, all right? And there's no discussion about it. That's just the way it should be. That's the key word, should. It's not that way because that's not real life, but it should be based on principle. But, so many people are just, the people in power are the ones that almost always you can't rely on. So, anyway, I'm Original Bloodies as always. Thanks for watching, and come back for more videos coming soon, as always.